We're back with the Screen Team right here on KWOC, being brought to you by Whitworth Gift Chest Jewelers, where Walmart is next door to us, Fearless Social, and Poplar Bluff Drywall. I'm being joined this segment by Matt Whitworth, and we're getting ready to review a movie that was nominated for Best Picture. It's called Bridge of Spies, and this film stars Tom Hanks, and it has to do with a period set in, the late 1950s? Is that what it was?
Yeah, 50s, 60s, around that time period.
I guess kind of the start of the Cold War, correct?
Right, yeah. We're already in the Cold War at this point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And basically it's about spies, right?
Yeah, espionage. And it's not an action film, like James Bond or something along those lines. But the suspense in this is fantastic.
Yeah. And I found it to begin at the very beginning, at the opening scene, I thought was just incredible. You're getting to know, I guess, the Russian spy, or supposed Russian spy, and they're set up in an area where you see what he's doing, and then he goes for a walk, and then like the FBI is like following him. They're trying to track him down, and the scene was so detailed and so. The tempo of it was just done so well. It was typical Spielberg, It
really was.
Usually when you want to kind of get in those kind of scenes, you want to rush to the, to the excitement of it. But he does it. He's like, okay, we'll get to that here in a second, but we got to show you this.
Right.
We got to show you this, and now we can. You know what I mean?
It was almost 10 minutes without dialogue too.
Yeah.
The opening sequence. Usually you have to have something to hook people from the beginning.
Yeah.
And I think this succeeded in hooking, at least my wife and I. At the beginning, but it wasn't in a typical fashion, as you said. They're following him back to his apartment, and everything, the attention to detail, and how everything's set up, how they're all kind of in secrecy, like swarming him, surrounding him, and they're making the arrest back at his apartment. It was just very well executed. It felt real.
I was surprised. I didn't know why they didn't make the arrest in the tunnel. They lost him for a second, and then. They ran into him, and they're like, "Oh, okay, well, you can go." Yeah. I didn't understand that part, but that first 10 minutes was really, really good. Another thing I really liked about it was the set design. I thought the set design was beautiful. I mean, watching this movie, you felt like you were in 59 Brooklyn, New York, or
in West Germany.
Oh yeah,
especially the parts where they're in Germany
and you
Russia,
see the wall going up.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very, very well done. So basically, they capture this Russian spy, the American government does, and they're putting him on trial for espionage and all bad things that spies do, right?
Right.
But the American government wants to give him a fair shot. They want to make it believe that he's getting a fair trial, right?
They at least want the appearance for other countries, but Tom Hanks ends up kind of being the only one that really wants to give him an actual fair trial.
Yeah. So he goes above and beyond, and everybody's like, "Tom, you can bring it down a notch, So they have the trial, they convict him, and Tom Hanks' character convinces the judge not to give him the death penalty,
right?
Because basically he could be used as a pawn in the spy game later on, correct?
Right, and that's exactly what happens.
Yeah,
It was great foresight on his character and the real-life person to say, this isn't something that's unique to our country. This is going to be happening across the lines because we're at a Cold War.
Right.
And how great would it be if we can get that? But, as the plot thickens, they capture an American student in West Germany, and they want to use him as a pawn also. And so he has to bargain for not only this life, but 2 other American lives. And the odds aren't really in his favor because he only has one person to make the exchange with.
Yeah, it's. I love Tom Hanks' character in this. You see it from the very beginning, where he's having a discussion with another lawyer and basically, talks his way out of does a lot of lawyer trickery with him. And
but it's done in an admirable way. It could have been very condescending or weaselly, but he does it in a way it seems very ethical. And I mean, Tom Hanks just has that kind of credibility to him. He's played so many lovable characters over the years that you just kind of you take that for granted.
Yeah, that's true. It's very, very true. And later on you see that his character, he's being followed by the CIA, and the CIA is telling him you got to do this and this and this, and he basically gives it to He gives it to the CIA folks as well, which I thought was very, very well done. And, this being a true story, this, at the very end, they kind of show what this Tom Hanks' character did for this movie, but also down the line too. It was incredible.
What an incredible human being this person was. Not just a character. This is a real person.
Yeah.
All of them were real people. And at the end, it does leave it up seemingly in some ambiguity with Mark Rylance's character. But he actually lived to a pretty good old age. He lived to he died in the 1970s, I think, of cancer. So he wasn't taken out by his own government.
Yeah.
Which was because we ended up really liking his character as well. And Mark Rylance kind of stole the show in this movie.
Yeah.
He really earned that accolade. He won Best Supporting Actor for this.
Yeah.
I was really pulling for Stallone and Creed, and I thought he really deserved it. But Rylance was so good too. I can't argue with their choice on that. And he was such an understated character. Usually, Best Supporting Actors are more colorful, like Marissa Tomei and My Cousin Benny, or Heath Ledger's Joker. And
very over the top. This one was so dialed down.
Yes, which you would expect from someone that's a spy from Russia. Russia's a very stoic country anyway, by trade. And if you're in if you're in espionage, you kind of have to be able to do that as well. You have to have a very good poker face. But he was so quirky in his mannerisms, and he delivered his dialogue just brilliantly. He felt like a very sympathetic character, even though this is kind of the challenge of the movie is, can you be sympathetic towards characters we normally wouldn't be sympathetic to? And I think that they do a very good job of it. It kind of reminded me of John Wayne's character in The Searchers, where he plays a racist, but it challenges you to, hey, this guy has redeemable qualities, and at the end of the movie, he does redeem himself. With this character, Mark Rylance, in his portrayal, you do kind of root for him to make it back to his family and his home country.
You do. Yeah. So I didn't get to ask you, did you like the film?
No, not at all. No, I loved it. It was great.
Yeah.
I was glad that it was nominated for Best Picture. We had talked a little bit before we were recording, and it felt like a return to form for Spielberg in a lot of ways. I loved Lincoln. I never got to see War Horse, but this was, since I think kind of like the late 90s, Saving Private Ryan, he hasn't had as many classics. He hasn't had as many, like, this is a movie you have to see before you die, kind of thing. Like, he had dozens of them, before this, and this kind of felt like more of a return to form. It was a very, very enthralling movie and experience. One quick note, though, that I thought was interesting is he didn't have John Williams do the score.
Oh, he didn't. Not even notice.
Yeah, which usually that's his guy. I think he's had John Williams do the score for every movie he's done since at least 1974 with the Sugar Land Express. I think was their first one, but I apologize if I'm wrong on that. But every single movie, including his last film, which I think was Lincoln.
Do I want to say yes? Yes.
I know that he was the score. He did the score for Lincoln, but I can't remember that was his last film before this one. But I don't know the story on it, why he had someone else, if John Williams was just too busy with Star Wars or something like that.
That might have been the case. Yeah. Either way, man, it's a great movie, and if you get a chance, check it out, man. It's called Bridge of Spies. Coming up after the break, we're going to review the Coen brother movie Hail Caesar. That's next on KWOC.